Okay. Do you see this? Do you see the recording number?
Recording started.
All right. Very good. So here we go. I'm going to give you a nice little intro. Welcome everybody to the kitchen table. You guys know me. I'm Kenny D. I have a very, very special guest. You guys asked for him. I got him. A legend of the job. He started as a young fireman in Belleville, New Jersey, Auxiliary Fire Department. Moved over to the North Bergen Fire Department, right, in 1977 in
Correct.
Engine 4 till 1980, where he got on the FDNY and was assigned to Engine 3, correct?
Yep.
Transferred up to Engine 59 from 1981 to 1983, and then got on the famous Ladder 30 from 1983 to retirement age in 2020, correct?
Correct.
This is the Duke of the Zoo, the freak of the FDNY, and the Ayatollah of Packin' Hosa, Keith NICOLIELLO. How are you, brother?
Oh, very good, Kenny. That's a great introduction.
Good. I hope you would like that. That's awesome.
And for all those people that are listening, everything that he said is true.
Keith, I gotta thank you so much for taking your time out to sit and talk to me. I know we worked together for a long time. You got a lot of fans out there, a lot of people. Since I started doing this, a lot of people are like, oh, you got to get Keith on. You work in the zoo. And I know you go all over the place visiting firehouses and stuff like that. So thanks so much for sitting in with me.
Oh, well, you're welcome. And I was really honored that you wanted me on because you got an up-and-coming podcast here. And I hope I do a good job tonight.
I think you're going to do a great job. But your experience and your fire duty and your stories, and even just the way you've explained things and taught us as young firemen coming up on the job, I think this is going to be great. You can, guys are going to get a lot out of this. So let's get right into it. All right. So you're from North Bergen, New Jersey, correct?
Yes. I was born May 20th, 1955 in Jersey City, New Jersey. And we moved into North Bergen right after that in an apartment on the west side of North Bergen. And then my parents bought the house that I grew up in 1958, which was on the east side of North Bergen.
East side of North Bergen.
Yes, we were so close. We were a block from the top of from the Palisades, which is between the Palisades and New York City is the Hudson River.
Right.
So every time I walked out on my porch, if I looked to the right, I see Manhattan.
Oh, you got a nice view of Manhattan? You could see it?
Yes. And
nice.
Also for my room on the third floor, we were in a 3-story frame house. I could see the old World Trade Centers.
Wow.
They built them. So.
Wow. So, yeah, that's, so we're even going to talk about that because you were fireman during 9/11. So we'll get into that a little later. But what was it like growing up in North Bergen? How was that? How was the neighborhood? Was it Italian, Irish?
Yeah, no, it was actually the neighborhood was Italian Jewish.
Oh, really?
Yes, we grew up in the uptown North Bergen. It was all actually reminded me of the North Bronx, where you have wood frame houses and you got row houses and you got small tenements all on the same block.
Yeah. Like up to, like was that Riverdale up in the Bronx there?
Yeah, mostly like around like 90 engine up there, 41 truck. I don't know what you'd call that, like high bridge or whatever. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
North Bronx.
Okay, North Bronx, North Bergen, same thing.
Yes, it was great. It was the block we lived on. I was on 74th Street between Broadway and Park Avenue, and there was probably 60 houses on the block, and they all had kids. We all hung out together, and we played on the street. And I still have a few friends from when we were growing up still.
Oh,
A
nice.
lot of them moved away. A lot of them lost contact with. A lot of them died.
Yeah. Did you find other guys? Like, I know that you're now on social media for a little while. Have you reconnected with people through social media?
Yeah, a few people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really Kenny, at this point in my life, I got enough friends. And, people go on Facebook to find people in the past and everything. It doesn't really interest me.
Sometimes leaving the past behind is best, right?
Yeah, even sometimes when it's good.
Yeah, it's just it's a chapter that's closed in your life, right?
Yeah.
So
but
North
Bergen was a great town. It was probably about 60,000 people. It was sort of urban.
Yeah.
The school system was good. We had 10 grammar schools and a high school.
Wow. That's a good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fire department was it was 5 engines and 2 ladder companies, about 120 guys.
All right, that's a decent sized department for them. How big of a department is it now? Like, it's got to be bigger now.
Well, they actually did away with the North Bergen Fire Department, and they merged North Bergen, Guttenberg, Union City, West New York, and Weehawken into one regional fire department. They call it the North Hudson Regional Fire Department right now. And that's about 300 guys.
And that's a paid department, right? Those guys are 24/7 paid department. Fully
paid.
Okay, cool. Now, speaking of departments, you got on the Belleville Auxiliary Fire Department at a very young age, right? Well, that's a volunteer, and how'd that come about?
Well, that was...
Oh, let me see if I can find a picture. I'm going to put a picture up. Yeah.
Put that picture up.
It's up. Where you going? Don't get lost.
I had to get up. Now,
see that picture?
That picture is... We had the Belleville Auxiliary Fire Department was... Belleville Fire Department was a fully paid job.
Mm-hmm.
They probably had 70 guys.
Okay. But
the auxiliaries, we supplemented them. They didn't use us in place of guys like for overtime, but we were just extra.
Okay.
That rig that you showed that's engine 7. That was our rig that we used for training. We did training every Thursday night.
Okay.
And I'm on the extreme left-hand side, if you can see that picture.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a nice little picture there. That picture stayed very well, you know, like it didn't fade or nothing.
Nope. That's 1972.
Wow. Now, you say there was a 70-man paid department and you guys filled in. Like, could you be working on a rig with a guy who's paid and all night long? Oh, wow. That's
yeah, you could come in anytime you want. All you had to do was report into the deputy and say, can I ride tonight? And you say, yeah, okay, ride in headquarters, engine 4 or ladder 3. Or any of the other houses, and they had you on a roll call, but you weren't considered a regular fireman. But we went in. They taught us how to put Scott masks on and how to lay lines and everything. We did everything. The only thing you couldn't do, you couldn't drive the rig. And I didn't give a fuck about that because who wants to drive and be outside when you're young, right?
When you're young, I didn't want to drive the rig. Did you have to go through like an academy or just like an in-house kind of training for that?
No. Every Thursday night we met. When you signed up, it was through like the civil defense.
Yeah.
You got a uniform, you got gear, and then Thursday night you showed up for the training sessions, and then you started riding.
Nice. Was there any sort of like, you know how there could be some animosity between like paid departments and volley departments and the like that? Was there any animosity between you guys like that?
No, the guys loved us because after a fire, they had a bunch of extra hands to hoist the hose up because the hose was cotton hose with brass butts.
Oh, wow.
So after the fire was over, you took the wet hose, put it on the back step. You went back to the firehouse. You had to wash it and hang it.
Oh, man. That must have taken forever.
Who used to go up in the hose tower? The auxiliaries.
Yeah.
But it was, let me tell you something, Kenny. It was great.
Yeah. Now, cotton hoses, did they have any problem with them burning in fires or anything like that?
No, not really. The only problem was that they would mildew if you left them wet and repacked them on the bed.
Right.
But they were very heavy. The 2.5-inch hose was like, with the brass butts was like 71 pounds without water in it.
Jesus. This might be a stupid question because I'm so naive. Like, did a lot of fire departments have cotton hoses? When did it switch over to the rubber hoses?
Well, they switched over to like the polyester or the artificial hose, probably in the late 60s and early 70s. They went with 1.5 inches. I don't know what you'd call polyester hose or
I don't know. Nylon maybe?
Yeah, well, it didn't you didn't have to worry about hanging it. You just, of course, like what we do now, we repack it right on the bed.
Yeah. They kind of dry on its own.
So that was a big help.
Good.
And it was light because the butts, they were made of this stuff called Pyrolite, which, the butts that we have now, they're light.
Yeah.
So it made the whole length of hose much lighter.
Were they 50 feet in length or?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting.
Belleville used 1.5 inch hose with a fog nozzle for attacking a fire.
And
they laid a 2.5-inch line from the hydrant as the supply.
A 2.5-inch from the hydrant to this as a supply line.
Yeah, there was the only fire department in that area that was using 3-inch hose at the time was Newark.
Newark.
Yeah, which was right next to Belleville.
Yeah. Did you mutual aid with them any?
Kenny, all the time. And Newark, they had their war years too back then.
Yeah.
Very busy. And the surrounding municipalities like Belleville, East Orange, Bloomfield, Elizabeth. On a Friday, Saturday night, you'd be in, those companies would be in Newark because there'd be so many fires going on.
Wow.
And that helped with a little bit of my experience.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. Yeah.
So, and that was kind of, the shit was going on in Newark at the time. It was kind of dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
You'd get hit with rocks and bottles and stuff like that. And it was a different world. They
were throwing shit at firemen too, not just the cops.
Yeah.
Wow. I had heard stories in the past where guys were fighting fires in the city, not in Jersey, and buckets of like cement were coming down at them and stuff. You might even have told me stories or two about stuff like that.
Yes, that was just to skip ahead, but we'll get back. That was the riots up in Washington Heights when that Kiko Garcia got killed by a cop.
Oh, right.
Started rioting from the in the Washington Heights area, and 59 engine went up, and they were putting out a fire, and they dumped a 5-gallon pail of paint, white paint, on the rig. It hit right where the stang is and covered the. But if that would have hit a fireman,
yeah, it would have fucking killed him.
Yes,
instantly.
It was very crazy up there.
Wow. Yeah, we'll get that's a good point. We'll get into that too. And also, you mentioned what else I want to get into a little later, like if you want to. You mentioned fog nozzle. A lot of guys use fog nozzles. Now that I'm doing this on the internet, a lot of fire department stuff is popping up, and the volleys are like fog nozzles are the best, and we use straight stream nozzles. So I was wondering on your take, but later on we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So do you officially leave the Belleville Fire Department and get on North Bergen, or do you still volley with the Belleville?
Here's what happened. So 72, right? 73, I turned 18. So of course I got to go down to Jersey City and register with Selective Service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because every 18-year-old's got to read. So at the time they were doing a lottery.
For the draft.
You were given a number.
Yeah.
And when that number was called, you would have to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I said, all right, if that's the case, then I got to go. But in the meantime, I went to college. I went to a 2-year college when I graduated from North Bergen High School. I graduated in 73. And I went to a community college. Not to get out of the draft, just for something to do.
Yeah. What did you study in?
Fire science.
Oh, yeah. Fire science, put water on fire, fire goes out. There you go.
That's right. It was one lesson, lasted 10 minutes, and I got a degree. But yeah, so anyway, that happened, and I never got called. So I started taking, I did other odd jobs in the meantime. I drove a beer truck, and I worked for the town of North Bergen, and I did a few other things, but I kept taking tests. But being I was a non-vet, and the vets were coming back from Vietnam, in Jersey, they get full preference on the list. So, I had no problem with that because they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
So I waited my time. And then that was 73. And then I guess.
Yeah, here's your helmet from North Bergen. Is that it right there?
North Bergen. That's my badge number, 48.
That's your badge number. You went to Engine 4.
Yes.
And so your badge number was on your front piece.
Yeah, they didn't put company numbers. They put a badge number.
That's interesting. Huh. Yeah. I didn't know. That's pretty wild. Huh.
Yes, and I took the test, and finally, like in Jersey, over the years, it was residency, then some tests were non-residency. So the test I took for North Bergen, it was 19 municipalities on it, and I checked off all of them. And I still have the cards from Civil Service. And in the North Bergen one, I came out number 3.
Number 3?
That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
And I got appointed on April 1st, 1977.
April 1st, 1977. I was 3 years old. 3 years old. Can you believe
I knew that.
So you get on North Bergen, you get to Engine 4. And
yes, well, let me tell you something. Here's how the training differs between now and then. So I go to I get sworn in at the town hall.
Yep.
Send me around the corner to the chief's office. I get a badge, number 48.
48.
I get 2 patches. that say North Bergen Fire Department, a
Mhm.
blanket. And
Blanket?
Yeah, they give you a blanket that says NBFD.
So you could sleep in the firehouse, take a little nap?
Yeah, I guess. And then the chief tells me, go down to Sears. There was a Sears and Roebuck's about a few blocks away. Buy a couple of pairs of Sears blue pants and chambray shirts, those light chambray shirts.
Okay.
And report to Engine 4 on Saturday night. This was Thursday.
Really? There was no academy?
Nope.
Get out of here.
Being that I was on Belleville, I knew about hose and stretching lines and doing this stuff. So I reported that night. Saturday night was my first night tour in Engine 4, which is only about 5 blocks from my house.
Oh wow.
And it wasn't that busy.
Wow, okay.
That was one of the slower companies in the town.
All right.
So I go there, I report to the captain. This is Captain Bobby Montagni. And he was the officer, and the MPO was this guy Hook Zahn, Tommy Zahn, and me on the back step.
Brand new guy. It's a good thing you had some fire experience.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you, a chauffeur, and the captain, you said? What is his name?
Yeah, they didn't have lieutenants. They went from fireman to captain to deputy chief. That was their rank.
Wow.
But so here I am, Kenny. So the captain says, I said, I was, I had a little experience. He goes, you know what the masks are? I said, yep. He says, okay, so it was an open rig. I don't know if you got the picture there, but he says, if I stand up and go like this and I say, we're line in, that means we're going to drop a line. And their line was sort of similar to what we do. It was 4 lengths of 1.5 inches connected to a Y, connected to 2.5. So we dropped the wire in front of the building. He had 4 lengths of 1.5 inches with a fog nozzle, and we'd attack the fire. And then the second due company would lay us a feed line.
Oh wow!
But
that's crazy. Yes,
and the first night I'm saying to myself, "All right, I got a little experience, but here I am now. I'm a municipal fireman. That this area is counting on me, and am I going to be able to do it?"
Yeah, yeah.
I was kind of afraid. I stayed up the whole night.
Oh, I can imagine.
And I was just going over the rig and looking at the rig and everything. So.
Even with your experience with firefighting, and you kind of did it the same from Belleville to North Bergen, you still they're counting on me. Like I gotta do this. That's definitely a scary thing. Now think of a guy who wasn't a volley or on an auxiliary or another fire department, just comes on. They're like, all right, here 3 days, you got to go, and have no fire experience whatsoever. What's going on? Oh my gosh.
It was willy-nilly. That's how they operated.
Yeah. Wow.
And a lot of fire departments over there did that.
Man. So at some point they had to start like an academy or a training. Did you see any of that? Or did you guys have in-house training or go to training like we do now, like to the Rock or anything like that?
Oh, nowhere compared to what we do now. And even when I got on FDNY with the academy, you can't compare. It was the North Bergen. Well, I can only speak for North Bergen, but I know the other towns too. There was no dedicated fire academy. It was all in-house training. Right. And, they counted on not having any fires, if you can believe that. And it did happen. It was they got away with a lot because there wasn't a lot of fires in North Bergen. They were all good neighborhoods.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, did you catch anything? Like you're in your own neighborhood, the people in your neighborhood. Did you catch any jobs that somebody that you know, or an incident of somebody you know? No,
my first job was probably 2 weeks after I got on the fire department. They detailed me to the firehouse. I sent you the picture of the 2 rigs, Engine 5 and Truck 2. They sent me down there to learn how to tiller. I had to do my 2 day tours and my 2 night tours down in Engine 5 and Truck 2. So one of my night tours, about 6 o'clock in the morning, we get a run to go even further downtown. This firehouse was under City Hall. And that was my first job. It was a 2.5-story frame house.
Oh wow! So how do you remember it too, huh? I can't find that picture. So yeah.
Later on when you pull it up, but that firehouse was under Town Hall. It was an engine company and a ladder company. Because North Bergen was, if you look at the number 7, that's what North Bergen was like.
It was like a 7.
When I lived in the uptown North Bergen was like part of that 7. Then you had Midtown and downtown.
So if you look down at it like a map, it looks like a 7, like the neighborhood 7. Oh, that's pretty cool. Wow. So you're in North Bergen, kind of slow area in your own neighborhood. What kind of tours do you guys work over there?
We worked, they called them 10s and 14s, 8 to 4, and then 4 to 8.
8 to
2
4
day tours, 1 day off, 2 night tours, 3 days off. Sort of like art shot.
Yeah.
You know, we do the 9s and the 15s.
Yeah.
But
10s and 14s.
They a lot of guys relieved early because 90% of the guys on that job over there had second jobs. So they had to get out early. They were plumbers, they were carpenters, they were masons, they had trades, so they did that. And
yeah, so. Not unfamiliar to today's fire department, or at least when, you know, the last 10, 20 years, everybody we knew had it was, who was a roofer, who was a plumber, who was an electrician. Everybody had something. I didn't. What did I do? I didn't do nothing.
Me neither. I cleaned up. If I what to help somebody, right? Like remember we did. Who did we do? We did Aileron's roof.
We did Aileron's roof. We did Foley's house too. That one time. Yeah. We did. Who else? We did a couple other ones. I helped carry coin out a little bit. That's what you do. But that's what you do, right? I need help.
I got such a bad case of poison ivory from Foley's house.
Did you really?
Oh, but I was glad to help him.
Yeah. That was the whole house showed up for that one because he has had a hand in helping everybody out in our firehouse. And when it was time for him, the whole house showed up to help him out. That was great.
That's right.
That was good stuff. So you're on North Bergen. Did you always have aspirations to go to the FDNY, or were you just thinking about it, or what was the deal with that?
No, I always did because I lived so close to New York City, and there was no YouTube years ago or no social media. So I think it was every Tuesday or Thursday night, there was a TV show on Channel 31 called On the Job. It was the official training show of the New York City Fire Department.
It was a training show?
Yeah.
Really?
Called On the Job. You can find it now on YouTube. And it was a half an hour, and they touched on a different subject every night, like the Marine Division or the tower ladder operations. So I used to watch that all the time.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that. I mean, you probably told me at one point, but I don't remember. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, On the Job. It's on YouTube now. They got some good old videos on there, too.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was an official, they used On the Job in promotion for lieutenants.
Oh, really?
If they went over something, you were required to watch that episode. Yeah, imagine that.
So you didn't get all your TV experience from the show? What was the show? Emergency that you used to watch? Was that the show?
What, Emergency?
Yeah. Didn't you get all your experience through that?
You know, I watched that thing and I was so, I said, yeah, you know, it's a good fire department show, but now you watch it now and you think it's so ridiculous.
It's terrible, isn't it?
The captain, the first due engine, he stands outside and he tells the two guys, take a line inside, and he's standing outside.
Well,
we don't do that.
We don't do that. What do we do, Nick? What do we do?
We go in.
Yeah.
Damn it.
So you get on. Now this is your appointment letter, right?
Yes.
So
that's
what is that?
The letter, Kenny. That you get that, you know. Yeah. That fucking letter, you jump for joy when you get that letter.
So you see, it says Thursday, November 20th, 1980, at 9:30 a.m. Right, to report. Now, November 20th is a very significant date. You know why?
No.
It's my birthday.
Oh.
You got appointed to the fire department on my birthday.
Well, two happy occasions.
Yeah.
Very good.
So how is that? How is getting up? You must like a dream come true, right? Getting on the FDNY?
Well, let me tell you something. The test I took was in 77. That's the same year I got on the North Bergen Fire Department.
Right.
But I didn't say nothing to the guys. I just went about doing what I had to do. At the time, you had to live in the 5 boroughs. So I went to Brooklyn, and I went to La Bella Realty on New Utrecht Avenue, and I got an apartment.
Really? No shit.
1368 66th Street.
Wow.
And that's the address I used, and I filed for the test. And then they sent us information that you could go to John Jay High School for tutorial for the written, which I went to. Yeah. Because I wanted that job bad. And I did that. And then after the written, they sent you a letter with what the physical things were going to be.
Yeah.
And I practiced for that. I ran, I lifted, I did chin-ups, the whole bit.
Yep. Did you have the wall? You had to go over the wall?
Yes. So I passed the written. Then they gave me a date to go to the physical. I took it in the Sumner Avenue Armory in Brooklyn.
Sumner
It goes
Avenue.
around 111 truck goes around there. Sumner and Jefferson. So I go in there, and I'm nervous. I'm ready to go though. I ate a couple of candy bars, and I'm ready to go. And the test was hard.
Yeah.
It was. You had to pick up a 125-pound dummy on the shoulder, walk upstairs, go around through cones, come back down, lay the dummy down. Right. Then you had to go over 2 walls.
2 walls.
A 4-foot wall and an 8-foot wall. You had to scale them.
Wow.
Then it was a hand grip test. See how much grip you got.
Okay.
And a broad jump.
A broad jump?
A broad jump. And then they had a long piece of plywood. It probably about 20 feet long. Yeah. And about an inch or 2 out was a 2x4. And you had to put your face against the plywood with an old Scott on your back. Yeah. And go down and up without falling off. You got 2 tries.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, that's great. That's such a weird. I mean, like the broad jump, like I could see with the Scott pack, but the broad jump is weird. Huh.
And then what else? It was a mile run inside.
Ceiling pull or anything like that?
No, had nothing. You did no fire department functions at all in there.
Wow.
And if you think about it, the written was not hard, but it wasn't easy. So therefore, if you passed that meant you thunk good. Is that a word? Thunk?
Is thunk? You thunk? Yeah. I thunk pretty good.
You could think well.
Yeah.
Then the physical had nothing to do with the fire department, but in a way it did, because all those things you use at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Balance, getting over walls, dummy drag, cardio. So you got a good written and a good physical. You got an all-around fireman or an all-around candidate that they could teach how to be a fireman.
Yeah. Nice.
And they dubbed that test the Superman test.
They called it the Superman test?
Yes. Yeah. And also I took the written in Brooklyn Technical High School.
Brooklyn Tech. Yeah.
Off of Flatbush Avenue. But the physical was it was tough.
Yeah.
You definitely had to train for it, and you had to be ready for it. And if you really wanted the job.
Yeah.
And the list went from, I think it was 45,000 original applicants, and the list got narrowed down to 6,000 guys.
Wow, from 45,000.
So don't you think they got the cream of the crop on that fucking list?
I would say so. Absolutely. What number were you?
1,399.
Wow. Look at you. You just remember this stuff. This unbelievable.
Don't ask me anything Victoria told me yesterday. But I can tell you about this.
So how long was the academy back then? How long was Proby School? 6 weeks?
Yep. So we got sworn in, and if you notice on that letter, it says you will report in civilian suit with white shirt and tie.
Yeah. Yeah. It says it for sure.
And man, I was so excited. I brought my family and a couple of my aunts, and it was at the Rock, and we got sworn in. Oh, Kenny, it was so great. I was so proud. I was so happy. And I knew there was a long road ahead, but I was just so happy to get to this point. Now,
getting in the academy, were you like, how did you feel finally getting like legit, serious, organized training compared to the Jersey fire departments that you were on?
Well, I don't want to sound like boastful, but and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but no comparison. At the time, the training in North Bergen, I don't know about the other towns, but it was horrible.
Yeah.
And you can agree with that by what I just told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put somebody in the back step of a rig.
With no experience or little to none experience. Yeah.
So my mind was, I made it blank, and I said, I'm going to learn airway. And that's it. Never look back.
Awesome. That's great.
The academy was tough. It was, we were in November, so it just started to get cool out. And the same thing. They told us, go to Sears, get a dark blue shirt, dark blue pants, don't put no patches on it, black socks and shoes, and a belt. And then that was we got sworn in on a Thursday, I think, and then we started Saturday. We got our badges. We did paperwork, next to kin, dental forms, or medical, whatever, all of that stuff. And they said, report Monday, you start. So we lined up Monday and we did PT out in the cold.
Of course. Absolutely. Because we're men. We work out in the cold.
There was no fucking Proby pavilion that they got now out there.
Just
because they want to keep out of the weather. Right.
Oh, they don't want it to get wet.
Right.
So you're in the academy and you get assigned to a company as famous as you are on this job, and you are. There was somebody more famous in the academy with you. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yes.
And his name, if you can see it,
Steve.
Go ahead. Wow, from Steve Buscemi was in your Proby class.
Yes. I tell you what, Kenny, we had a great Proby class, and it was 6 weeks of just pure firefighting.
Nice.
There was no EMS. The only day we had 1 day of first aid. And they taught you about childbirth, how to stop bleeding, and I think we did CPR, but it was 1 day. Just 1 day.
That's just to just to do it. Yeah.
Right. We scaling ladders. We did the single slide. We did the lowering operation. Yeah. We stretched lines. They had this thing called smoke discipline, where you went in to the smokehouse with no mask on.
Yeah.
There was, I think, 6 or 8 of us going in as a team with an instructor inside. And, they told you, how bad it is when you stand up, then get down on one knee, then get down on the ground. And that was they said, in case that Scott fails, you know what to expect. And you can get down and, get out. Yeah. Yeah. We did something like that. I think they just called it Introduction to Smoke. Yeah.
And we were up and down, and I had never been in that kind of smoke up to this point in my life, some campfires. And I was literally on the floor, kissing the floor. They were like, kiss the floor, because you got that couple of inches of clear air if Scott runs out. So that was quite an eye opener for me doing that. Yeah.
Me too, because how many fires did I get in North Bergen? Not that many, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And I was never good at taking smoke.
Okay.
Even when I got up to 59 and we did things without the max, I suffered for it afterwards.
Right. Yeah. So it's a good training tool for sure.
Oh yeah. But the academy was great, and we operated with yellow slickers. You know what a yellow slicker is? Like a raincoat.
So like this?
No, that was the fire coat when we got out of the
Right. So yellow slickers.
Yeah, it's like
like a Gorton's fisherman raincoat.
Yeah, and a yellow fiberglass CD helmet. That was our turnout gear in the academy. And the rubber boots. The rubber boots were just the normal boots. Black.
These boots, right?
That's
Look
it.
At that. The rubber goods. That's something else I want to get into in a little bit. The switch over from the rubber goods to bunker gear and how you dealt with that. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. But anyway, so the academy was, I loved it. It was hard. You left at the end of the day, you were exhausted. And I used to commute with Billy Walsh. So, because he lived on Caton Avenue in Brooklyn and I was on 13th Avenue, 66. So we would commute, but it was a long ride home from the academy after that, and just fucking beat. You did physical stuff all fucking day.
Yeah. Good stuff. And, but you were satisfied and rewarded at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I knew, I said, like Billy Walsh said this, and I agree with him. If we're in the academy and there's a possibility that you can get killed in this job, I want to learn everything we can while in school there.
Yeah.
You know? And the instructors were all old guys from the 60s and the 70s.
Men, real men.
So they knew their shit.
Yeah.
And it was very fulfilling. I enjoyed every hour in that academy.
That's great.
But I wanted to get to a company, but
sure. So now you get, I'm trying to find, were those pictures that you sent me of, I got it right here. Look, boom. That's you and Billy Walsh.
That's me and Billy Walsh on the day that we graduated at the Rock.
That's great.
And then you got the other one with me and him like 45 years later. That's me and him.
Look at you.
Yep, we got together up by his house, I guess a year or so ago for lunch.
Nice.
Great guy.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when I got the pictures like on the side and they're small, so it's hard to see them. But I figured that's who that was. Those pictures.
Yeah,
so
that was Billy Walsh. He was my partner at Proby School. We had a lot of guys that went up the ranks in my Proby School. Terry Hatton, Tommy Richardson, who became chief of the fire department. He was my Richie Gladys, Garrity, Steve Garrity,
you got
and a bunch of other guys that made deputy. And there's Walsh, Gladys, and Tommy Richardson. They were at the 100th year anniversary for Rescue 2. So they decided to take that picture and send it to me because I wasn't there. But I still keep in touch with those three guys to this day. I
met Richardson once after Quinn's roof rope rescue, and he was awesome. Like he showed up and he was like, and we were breaking his chops and he was just loving it. It was such a great day. And that was the only time I got to meet him. And I thought he was a gentleman. He was a really nice guy.
Let me tell you something, Kenny. Something went on that he quit being chief of the fire department. I don't know what it is, and I'm not going to comment on it. But if they would have kept him there, he would have been a great chief, and he would have led this job into the next fucking century. Yeah,
I think he was on a recent Volley podcast.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah, I saw clips of it. I got to check out the whole thing, but it looked like pretty good. Those guys seem to be doing a good thing.
How about this one? Chief of the fire department. Every Friday, he used to spend a morning in a firehouse riding with a company, and then in the afternoon at in an ambulance riding.
When did they do that?
He started doing.
He started doing that.
Yep, because he said I heard years ago when I was a young fireman, oh, that fucking headquarters is so out of touch, and we said that too, but he said I'm going to change that. So he went to different firehouse every Friday morning, afternoon to an ambulance, and he rode with them. Said, "What do you need? What can we do better?"
Wow,
who does that?
Dude, like that's unbelievable. A guy like that, keeping in touch with the guys, doing the right thing. That's a gentleman. And losing that kind of experience and that kind of leadership is tough for a job for the job, man. The job took a huge hit losing him and you as well. But like a guy doing that stuff, that's great. That's above and beyond.
Me, I had to go because I was 65. But him, he could have stayed longer. But that once you get that New York politics involved, it's a different animal.
Yeah. So you get assigned. Is that Snyder yet?
Speaking about animals,
where
Snyder
is he?
Just arrived. Hold on, Snyder, there's food in the oven there for you. So, Kenny, here's another thing. So Tommy Richardson says to me, he says, I wrote in. This was a year ago. He says, when he was still working, I rode in the firehouse, and the guys were so enthused and they're ready to go. So we get a phone alarm for fire. So he gets on the rig. And the guy said, you're going to go? You can go? He goes, yeah, I can go. I'm the chief of the fire department, right? So he's sitting across from this Proby, and Proby's getting his gear on, everything getting all set. They're listening. They're reading the MDT. So Tommy says, hey, to the kid, he says, when we get there, you stretch your line, but I take it in. And the kid says, that ain't happening, Chief. So Tommy says, that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
That is fucking great. That's great. Do you know what company that was?
I don't know. Probably, I don't know. He used to like to ride in Brooklyn, so it was probably Brooklyn.
That shows you that the guy is being trained right. Like your job is you got the nozzle, you take it, you're not giving it to anybody, and you get in there and put the job. And he just told the chief, "Not chief, I respect you and respect."
No, he said that ain't happening, Chief.
It ain't happening. And he loved it. I bet he loved it. That's great. It. Oh, that's pretty awesome.
How about this one, Kenny? His last tour, he was the can man in Rescue 2.
His last tour.
His last tour in the fire department, he was the can man in Rescue 2. How about that?
How about that, man?
He's
How about
the fucking best.
Just didn't want that fire. It was still in him, wanting to be in the firehouse. Like there are guys that get promoted and that kind of leaves them. They want to do that. But he still wanted to be in the firehouse with the men doing the job. That's how much he loved the job. That's great.
Yeah, I really, I'm so glad that me and him and Billy Walsh and Gladys and a few other guys just stay in touch. We had 100 guys in a class, and you don't see anybody anymore.
It's tough. It's tough. Do you ever get together with them, have like lunch or anything?
Well, we did have a 30-year reunion that Billy Walsh set up at the Chelsea Piers, and that was good. We probably had about 50 guys.
Yeah.
And then, who dies, who moves away, whatever. But three guys on 9/11 from my class died. It was Terry Hatton,
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Devlin, and John Moran.
Mm,
They were
okay.
my Proby classmates.
They were in your Proby school.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's
anyway,
good.
so what are we getting back to?
So now you're getting out of Proby school, and here's your Proby helmet. This is assigned to you, right? At engine 3. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's a legit leather helmet right there, assigned.
Fitted to your head.
Boom.
No
Now,
chin strap.
How did they wasn't one size fits all. They fit it to your head. There's different sizes.
They put something on your head that looks like a top hat.
Mm-hmm.
It had springs in it. And when it went onto your head, they turned something and it locked that in, and it gave the exact shape of your head. So your
Nice.
helmet fit you perfectly.
Wow, nice. And now when you get some heat, doesn't it like mold to your head a little bit too? No, it didn't.
No, the inside stayed the same. Just the outside, the leather would, if you notice the engine guys, their front pieces were always like shriveled because they were in a lot of steam.
Yeah.
Where the truck guys, you could tell like theirs were just like dirty from pulling ceilings and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But the leather helmet was the best helmet that I don't know why they went to the plastic, but
I don't know either. I don't know either. So how was engine 3? I had a picture of you at the house watch, but I can't find it for some reason. So
engine 3, right? Of course, I'm so happy about being on the fire department that I loved that. Okay, I'm in engine 3. So I go there for my first tour, and I get there early and bring my gear in and stuff like that. And I'm probably at 7 o'clock in the morning. And down there, that was the 3rd Division, Battalion 7. It was very strict. The 7th Battalion chiefs were all old, and that whole 3rd Division was like not spit and polish, but everything was by the book.
Yeah, yeah.
So I get there, get introduced.
Straight and narrow.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Now, engine 3 was a 4-man engine at the time. There was 39 engines in a job that were 4 men, mostly all in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so the positions in the engine were, MPO, nozzle, backup, and standpipe.
The position was called standpipe.
Yep.
Wow.
And that was, you had a radio.
Huh.
Because down there, those buildings, it might be a 3 or 4 or 5 length stretch off the standpipe where you couldn't hear them calling for water, so they gave you a radio.
So who had the radio? The officer, the chauffeur, and the standpipe.
Standpipe.
When did they switch it to the control position? Do you know?
Well, when I got the 59 engine, which was a 5-man engine, just the MPO and the officer had radios. Right.
But the standpipe position was called standpipe throughout the job, or
in engine 3 they called it I think in the 3rd Division it was nozzle, backup, and standpipe.
So when you got to 59, they were calling the last guy the control guy.
Yes, it was nozzle, backup, door, and control.
Okay. No, I never heard. Yeah, no radios.
Yeah. So the MPO would, if you heard the boss say, hey, 59 to chauffeur start a line, then he'd be like this, and then we'd start stretching.
Yeah.
We all stayed by the back step.
Right. So,
but engine 3, 9 o'clock, right? We get the bells, roll call. Everything was legit down there. My first one was 9/11.
Really?
11 minutes after the 9, and mattress fire. Well, it came in as an ERS no contact. I think it was 17th, 18th Street, and I don't know, 27, whatever. But so we get there, it's a mattress.
Yeah.
Outside of a tenement. So the boss, Lieutenant Lane, says, well, he transmitted the box because we had to find out where this mattress came from.
Sure. Yeah, it could have been thrown out the window.
Yeah, or they wound up dragging it through the hallway. Lucky it was on the first floor.
Yeah.
But there was no extension. But that was my first run. And then when we got back, all the guys signed my the first run. I still have that.
So you get their first tour. Run comes in at 9/11. Mattress fire. Engine 3. Good way to start. Good way to start your in the field.
Yeah.
That's how we all want to start. Get it right. Prove yourself. Get out there and catch a fire right away.
Yeah.
So how long did you do engine 3?
A year and a month.
Wow. Not long at all.
No, you had to do your year's time in the company you were assigned to, right? And we all did that. And then a friend of mine was in 59 engine, Tommy Breslin, and I stayed friends with him after Proby School. And he said, "Why don't you come up and talk to the captain? You know, we need men up there, whatever, blah blah blah." So
Yeah.
I went to see my captain, Captain McKenna, in the engine. I said, "Listen, I want some more work. I got to get into a little busy area. I love it down here, but I got to leave." He goes, I agree. So, and I went up to see Captain Collins. Dick Collins was the 59 engine captain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went up to see him, as we all know we got to do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of us. I'm only kidding.
No, I love it. I talk about it. Everybody knows there's no secret. And
that was the best. That was a great story. But they told me, they said, "Listen, your chances of getting out of this engine 3 is not good," because they had 8 men on the roster.
Oh.
They're supposed to have 25 firemen on the roster.
Yeah.
So no good. So, I got out.
Got out.
1 year and a month.
And you got up to 59 engine. This is listen, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen, whoever listens, this is a very rare photo of Nick in a 59 engine hat. Look at that, or helmet.
That's me.
Great. That is great. So,
and Kenny, when I got up there, it was like fucking, I didn't know. I said, "This is part of the city." I thought it was like a fucking, like a big junkyard. It was dark. It was dirty. It fucking stunk.
Wow.
I got to the firehouse, and we had the barbed wire over the parking lot like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled in, and, you know, I got to, of course, you didn't bring cake years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You had to bring something else.
Mm-hmm. Square bag. Yes.
So I did that. Luckily, there was a 131st Street, and Lennox was the Abelson's beverage company.
You remember the names of the stores and everything.
Fuck yeah. So did that, whatever, we're having not change of tours, right? 6 o'clock at night. So I'm standing out in front of the 59 engine. I'm waiting for the rest of the guys to come for roll call. So who's in the engine? Mike McPartland. And I knew him. I said, "Mike, where is everybody?" He says, No, we don't have a roll call period. I said, "Well, how do you know what position you got?" He goes, "When we get on the rig, we decide."
Oh man, you're probably like, "Oh man, this is crazy."
It was totally fucking different, but you know what? After a while, you adapt to it.
Yeah.
So my first job in 59 engine was a job going in a new law tenement.
Okay.
First, the fire was. It was a long hallway on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
2 apartments in the back. So there's black smoke coming out of this thing as we pull up. I have the control position.
Okay.
So there's 100 people on this fire escape. The ladder's down. People are screaming. You know, we're all set. They pulling a line. There's black smoke coming in, and the people yelling. There was an old woman coming down a drop ladder. Get the woman, get the woman. So I go to get the woman, and the line goes tight.
Oh.
So I said, "Oh shit!" So I said, "Hold on." Then I'm pulling more hose to get back there, and get the woman, get the woman. So I go to the line goes tight again. Finally, the woman fell.
Really?
Yeah, but I couldn't do it because that line had to get into position.
Yeah. You got to get you're on the line. You got to get that line in position.
Yeah, occupied building at night.
Yeah.
So
was that this one? No.
No, that was
all right.
That was later.
I'll show you. We'll show that.
So that was my introduction to the zoo.
Wow, nice.
59
And that was
engine.
That was how far into when you got there? How long after that did you catch that job?
Oh boy. I would say
Couldn't have been
second
too long.
set of night tours.
That's second set. Some guys nowadays they go months without catching a first due job.
There was a lot of fires up there years ago, and it's a funny thing. Like I was just thinking about this, like what I was going to talk to you about. And 132 Street between Lenox Avenue and Park Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Lenox to Fifth to Madison to Park.
Yep.
One side of the street was all projects, and 2 apartment houses, those big 15-story jobs.
Yeah.
Fully occupied. The other side of the street, from Lenox to Park Avenue, there wasn't a person living in all those fucking tenements. They were all vacant.
All vacant.
Wow.
What a neighborhood that was with the South Bronx and Harlem. just burned out and vacants and, you know, rubble type of building.
Yeah. Any
Like-
any ghetto area
Yeah.
was like that. Like, you know, I had Bed-Stuy, East New York, Brownsville, you know, Staten Island had that one section. It was unbelievable how people could live like that in 1980.
Yeah.
Living in vacant buildings in the winter.
The city was just so freaking shot and poor and bankrupt and crime ridden, and that's how like New York really made its legacy and its bones was those times. You know, people think of New York, that's what they think of still. You know, it's different. It's different now, but you guys lived it. You guys did it, man.
100% different. But that's why guys wanted to work in those busy areas, because the more fires you went to, the better you became.
Yeah. Experience.
And that's no lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what happens in a vacant building? You get everyone you go to, you get more savvy and more savvy and more savvy. They're all different. They're all dangerous, but you know how to operate in them.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to throw up fucking a 20-foot straight ladder between floors to get to the floor above. You can never do that nowadays.
Oh.
You know, but there was always, they said vacant buildings, right? When you seen the ticket always said untenanted. That meant it was a fancy word for a vacant. Yeah. 90% of the time there was people in that fucking building.
Right.
That we had to remove.
Yeah. You know, homeless people or vagrants or whatever you want to call them, you know, that's who was living there.
Yeah. Or the drug dealers set up in those vacants.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever have any issues with anything like that while fighting a fire?
As far as what?
As far as like people thinking you're getting in the way, like maybe drug dealers or criminals that are setting up shop, you know,
no,
like in that building?
You know why? Because we were there to put out fires.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when we found stashes of guns, Uzis and pistols and guns and boxes containing thousands and thousands of dollars, whatever.
Yeah.
We never took a dollar.
Yeah.
So the word got out that the firemen are okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the drug dealers never bothered. It was the homeless people that would break into your car for chump change in your fucking in a cup in your car.
Right. They break your window for 15 cents.
Break your window for chump change or take the battery out of your car or whatever. You know, those are the people that gave us a hard time.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're in 59 engine, and when did you decide to go over to 30 truck?
Well, I really enjoyed being in an engine company. It was, you know, now they got EMS runs, right? But we were plagued with ERS.
Yeah.
ERS, no contact.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one night I was in the engine, went to the same alarm box 11 times in a night tour. Lennox and 127.
You remember that?
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, Lennox and 127.
11 times in one night. Was
All
it just
1092s.
somebody pulling a box every time?
Yeah, we used to, you know, after the first 2 or 3, we turn onto Lenox Avenue, shut all the lights off, and just cruise by. Yeah. Because we figured maybe somebody wants to hear the noise, to see the lights, whatever, turns them on. Yeah, cruise by, look down the block, see, make sure everything was okay, and that was it.
Yeah. So here you are.
Very rarely do you get an ERS box.
Right. Look at that. With your rubber goods and 30 truck.
Yes. That was a job up on, I think it was 153 and I think Amsterdam or whatever. We were an extra truck. And if you notice the cop car next to
I did, yeah.
That was Jughead's RMP.
No, really? It was Jughead's?
Yep.
James Gallagher.
He was just getting off and he heard the job come in, so he took it in.
Oh, man, that guy's awesome. He's so funny.
He's the best.
He is. He's a good dude. Now, what did you always wanted to go to the truck, or when you got to 59, you were like, you know what? I want to transfer to the truck. I like the engine work, but I want to transfer to the truck.
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, the thing that made me go to the engine was when they got their first female fireman. They made you
go to the truck.
No, I wanted to go. I said, I really don't want no part of this because I just didn't like the whole thing. And, you know, you want to say something, but I didn't want to. I had a sister, a mother, and a girlfriend at the time. So I didn't want to like pick on a woman.
Right. Right.
My thought was just don't even have anything to do to try to go to the truck.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did go to the truck, but I like truck work too. That was another reason.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Know? But so I sort of forced myself out of the engine.
Okay. I got you.
But it's a funny thing, right? I got detailed to the truck many times while I was in the engine.
Yeah.
And most of the time you got the can.
Mm-hmm.
They gave you the can. My first night tour in the engine, I get the can. It was like I was a fucking new kid that didn't know what was going on. I couldn't get the can out of the holder. The hook fell off. I was stumbling around. It was like, I don't know what it was, but it was my first actual tour as a truckman.
Yeah.
I guess I was just nervous, I guess, or whatever.
It happens. It happens. And that's how you learn, though. The nerves can get to you, and you fumble with stuff, and you don't know if you're doing things right. And, and once you settle in, like, you calm down, you start figuring it out, and you get it.
Yes.
Eventually.
And I'll tell you what, that house was all old guys. The young guys in there, like me, Mike McPartland, and a few, Gay Bob, and a few other guys, that. So whenever we worked, there was always guys that we could look up to. So if we were doing something wrong, they'd say, "Hey, no, come here,"
Yeah.
So, all right, that's a good picture.
Yeah. Who's in that picture?
That's the dog Jack.
Dog Jack.
Yep.
Got him.
And you got Ralph Coppola.
Mm-hmm.
Behind him is Jimmy Curran.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Richie Pagona from the engine, Joe Cancelleri from the engine, me, Jimmy Feaster, and Tommy Longo.
There you go. Look at you.
Yeah. And
Still got
Jack
a good
was
memory.
our Firehouse dog.
Nice. Jack the dog.
Yep. It was Jack would walk underneath 30 Trucks rig. It was a low profile Seagrave with the phone booth.
Yeah.
So it was low.
Yeah.
The dog had like a half inch of grease on his back from his neck all the way down to his tail. And when you came into the firehouse, even if he knew you or if he didn't know you, if you were walking down between the truck and the wall going towards the kitchen,
yeah,
he'd come out from underneath the rig and bite you on the back of your fingers all the time.
Every day, every time somebody came in the firehouse.
And actually, that's how they got rid of him, because a mailman came in and Jack bit the mailman.
Oh, man.
And we had to get rid of the dog. But the dog, let me tell you something. That was a ghetto dog, Kenny. It had no nails at all because it was on concrete constantly.
Oh, man.
And it used to bring in shitty diapers from the garbage and eat them underneath the rig. Used to go through trash, eat the trash. And the dog was healthy as a horse, right? So when we had to get rid of it, this guy, Babe Gallagher, took it up in Orange County. And within a week, the dog was dead because it was probably getting clean food. Probably got a bath. Fucking killed the dog.
A healthy dog. See, you can't be healthy. That's what happens.
That was a ghetto dog, man.
That's for sure. This is you got a picture of a vacant building. Here you go. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that's the side I was talking about. If you like where that picture is taken from, the left side where we're hitting it with the ladder, that was 132 Street, the south side. That's that whole string of buildings that was vacant, and that's me and Mike Carbone. Mike's in the middle, and I'm on the end because he was like a bull.
Yeah.
And we were taking, I think, cinder block windows in a vacant with a ladder with the 20-foot straight. Is
that what you're doing? You were pushing in the cinder block windows?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
It was a lower floor, of course, it had to be, but that worked pretty good.
Now look at you guys with your rubber jackets on and your rubber goods. And now tell me a little bit about, because you fought fires with rubber goods and bunker gear. What was the positives and negatives with both, and how did you deal with the transition?
Okay, well, what we used was the pull-up boots.
Pull-up
they
boots
were rubber.
Rubber. Showed that one before, and now here's the.
And if you notice, it says on both of them NYFD, and on the coat NY. That's how you had to mark your gear.
Not FDNY, NYFD.
No, so that was kind of odd, but that's what we did. So you got a coat, you got the rubber boots, and a fitted leather helmet. The gloves were like a construction type of a glove that said FDNY on it, made of cloth. That's all it was a construction glove. And you got a pair of that, and you got a pair of those Fireball rubber gloves. They were made of rubber.
Yeah.
So if you're working in the engine, you use that. If you're working in a truck, you use the construction gloves. And that's all, because there was no glove that was made for the fire service yet. We wore the Sears pants, or guys wore dungarees.
Dungarees, yeah.
Yeah, or actually my class, they started with this, there was a company, it was called Fire Stop. And it was like a fire resistant or fireproof pants and a light blue shirt that you had to wear the collar insignia with. So we were wearing that at the time. And the shirt worked out, but the pants like fell apart right away. After you wash them the first time, they turned gray. Yeah, and so we just went with the shirt. But they didn't really give. Captain Kinsel in the truck said, have the right uniform on at the start of the tour. After the first job, you wear whatever you want.
Okay, all right.
That's what he said. But, I don't know. We knew more about where we were years ago because of the regular windows in the building.
Okay.
Most of the time we pulled up, even in an occupied, there was flames out of a window.
Out the window already.
Because the window was made of wood, pieces of glass, and putty. So at a hot job, that would all melt out and it would light up. So that was adequate. The coat, the rubber boots, and the helmets. A lot of times you got stuff down the back of your neck because we didn't have hoods. Embers if you were pulling a ceiling. Or the engine guys, as they're crawling through, they would get hot water or embers in their boot. And then you know that because the guy would automatically stand up if he had the nozzle and stick the nozzle in his boot. And then he would continue on down the thing. Or you'd be going like this and he put the guy, they know what you're talking about. They put the nozzle down your back and cool you off a little bit.
But then keep going when fucking men were men. Oh, man.
Yeah, nobody wanted to go sick because going to the medical office was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And then you were off duty, and it sucked.
Right. Guys wanted to be.
If you got seriously hurt or burned, you had to go.
Right. Guys wanted to be in a firehouse fighting fires. That's what they wanted to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you got the rubber goods. When the change was around the 90s, I want to say early 90s. And how did you deal with that? How did you feel about the bunker gear? And
don't forget what I just told you: the rubber boots, the coat, and the helmet. In the truck, we wore. There was this company. It was called Lehigh Safety Shoes, and it was almost like a black trucker boot with a steel toe, and it actually was stamped inside approved FDNY 1977. It was approved for the chauffeur, OV, and roof.
Really?
To wear instead of the rubber boots, because roofman had to be quick. OV had to be getting to the back,
Yeah.
So a lot of times in the truck, we wore the Lehigh safety shoes, dungarees, and just your fire coat. Or if you were the roofman, the dungaree jacket.
Okay, yeah. Just use the dungaree jacket because you're just going up to the roof.
Yeah.
Doing your thing. Must have been very, very comfortable and just very easy to move around. And then when the bunker gear came in, it must have been, you must have felt like the Michelin Man with that.
It was horrible because now you got to pull these pants on, and the boots they gave us initially were these rubber boots, and they would chafe the back. You'd get a blister on your heel.
Yeah.
And they were heavy, and the pants were restrictive, and then they put pads in them.
Yeah.
And 1, 2, and 3 pads, and you could hardly bend your knees. They were experimenting with the shit. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even really know what was going on.
Yeah.
And of course, with the coat, it was just it was a change.
Yeah.
But
did it change
the
way you?
The old gear let you use your senses in a fire. Because you had your neck exposed, you had your wrists exposed, or whatever. And if you were in a flat and there was a job and you were going down a hallway and it wasn't getting hot, wait a minute, this fire's in the front. So you turned around and went. Or if something was going on around you, you knew. The bunker gear, you're so encapsulated that, I think sometimes you get too deep and you're in trouble.
So did it change when you got the bunker gear? Did it change the way you attacked the fire at all?
No, the tactics stayed the same, except we got slowed down a little bit.
Okay.
Instead of just jumping on a rig, and guys used to get dressed on a rig, even in the engine.
Yeah.
So your boots on, your coat, and whatever. But now you had to get dressed before you got on a rig and whatever. And that slowed you down. And, it's like anything else. It took a lot of time to get used to how they're almost used to it now, and that's what 20 years later or more.
More, right? Like
More, right? It came in
94. Is that when it came in?
around there.
Around yeah. So yeah, it's 30, 40, 30 something years. I don't know. I can't do math right now.
I hear you.
So tell me about some story. I just put up that picture. I want to hear some. I'm going to hear about this fire.
Okay, that was 16. That was the end of a night tour, probably 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. 69 engine went out on an ERS no contact. I think up on like 7th Avenue and 150th Street or something like that. They're coming back down 7th Avenue, go to their firehouse, and that job is right on the corner of 7th and 143.
Wow.
So they transmitted the box.
Yep.
And it was a fire on the, I guess, the 2nd and the 3rd floor. This was a fully occupied building.
Yeah.
And we were second due truck. And that picture, that's me and Billy Van Wart. I was the OV and so was he. We were searching that flat. It's a big building, right? We were searching that floor. And Billy comes out with this kid. If you notice, the kid's in a body cast from his knees to his waist.
That I just noticed that's a cast on the leg, but it goes up to his waist too.
Both legs onto his waist, and his legs were spread a little bit. So Billy, I was coming up the portable, so Billy gave me the kid, and we just took him down a ladder and then gave him to whoever the ambulance down there.
Yeah. Wow. That's. Yeah.
It turned out to be that was a good old hands fire.
Nice.
Nobody got hurt, but that was 69 engine got that had that by themselves for a little while.
Wow. Can you remember any real tough jobs that you had that you were like, all right, this is a tough one, like you just had a hard time, or you might have thought that things are going bad. You have any memories like that?
Well, you know what? We had the toughest buildings, I think, in the city, which were on 140th Street between Lenox and 7th. The E buildings. They were 7-story, shaped like an E if you're looking at them from above. And there was 3 wings. Each wing had an apartment, 2 apartments with a middle wall, and 4 apartments along the back. 7-story hand stretch around an elevator. And every fucking fire was on either the 6th or the 7th floor in that building.
Of course.
The 2.5 had to be in the lobby to reach a fire on the 6th floor.
Yeah.
You know how we reduced it from the 2.5 to 1.75 inch?
Yeah.
The 2.5 had to be in the lobby for that hose to reach the top floor.
Wow. That's a long.
They were tough buildings. Those were tough stretches because, and for the truck, it was an easy search because if it was in those wings, all you did was you just held onto one wall and all the apartments were off to one side. And the same thing on the other side of the wall, the apartments were on the other side. 2 different apartments, but a perfect search.
Yeah.
But it was many, many rooms. So they were always tough buildings. And for a top floor job, the OV had to take the aerial with the saw up the aerial. That was a fucked up climb.
That's a tough climb, man.
Yes, because only two of those buildings actually touched. It was 133 West 140th Street and 143 West 140th Street. They actually touched at the front.
Yeah.
So if there was a fire in one, you can go up the other one.
Right.
But the other ones, there was 2 or 3 other ones that were all isolated, so you had to take the aerial.
Yeah. So that's good that you had to know that. That's you show up, you're like, oh, okay, I can take the fucking exposure on this one.
Yeah. I always showed the guys in the truck, if you get 143 or 133, if the fire's in 133, go to 143. You'll be able to get to the roof.
Yeah.
To the fire building.
So those
they
were
tough. They were tough fires, physically tough.
Yeah.
Especially for the engine. Because years ago, everybody had their own line. 59, if they stretched the first line, 69 came in and they took the second line.
Yeah.
So
long stretches. Once you get up there, you haven't even gone to work yet until you get up there, making that long stretch. I'm
telling you, Kenny, you had to be in good shape. That's why you got to stay in shape when you're doing those stairs, man.
Yeah.
And the masks weren't even that heavy. They were only The new masts that came in were only 24 pounds.
Yeah.
From 32.
From
So
32.
it lost like 8 pounds, and it was great. Everybody was wearing a mask. The face piece fit good, but there was still a tough fire. And also, any kind of job we had in projects, it was always a Collier's mansion condition. So after the fire was knocked down, you know how bags of wet garbage you got to throw out the windows and we had to go down to the floor to make sure nobody was there. You know,
right.
They were always tough. There was always tough fires.
Yeah, just crap everywhere. Just brutal stuff. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
We had a few. I had a few jobs where we had 1045s. My first one was I was in the truck just a short period, and we get a job. We first do truck. I had the can. Tony Romano had the irons, and Kenny Mickich is the boss, right? Lieutenant Mickich. So we forced the door, and we forced it, but it won't open. So now both of these guys, Lieutenant Mickich and Tony Romano, are big guys. Yeah. So who goes, the 150-pound guy? I squeezed through the door to find out what's going on. And there's a woman completely roasted right by the door. But she wasn't holding the door. There was a dresser behind it.
Yeah.
But the woman had made her way from the fire to the hallway to try to get out, and she dropped there, but she was completely roasted, dead.
Oh, man. Brutal.
That was kind of scary for me.
Yeah, for sure. That was your first one?
That was my first roast.
Yeah.
And then we had one on that 132 Street near Park Avenue. Top floor job, and I'm the roof man, so I go up exposure 2, partially occupied, and I get up to like the 3rd or 4th floor, and a woman says to me, "My apartment's on fire." So I said, "Oh," so I get in her apartment, and sure enough, it's extending through the air shaft into her apartment.
Oh wow!
So I made a quick search, and I told her to go downstairs, and then I shut the door, and then I went up because the roof man's always going to go to the roof.
Yeah.
But the vacant next door was going, like the top 2 or 3 floors were fully involved in fire.
Yeah.
And later on, we dropped down, and there was a woman. This was in cold weather. A woman was at the rear window, the off window, off the fire escape, at the window with her baby in her arm, both roasted.
Oh, no.
Trying to keep warm.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I never liked that when you found somebody or you pull somebody out alive, whatever. But can I tell you a funny story?
Of course, I want to hear a funny story.
Here we got me as the can.
Yeah.
Jimmy McCauley, God rest his soul. He's got the irons, and Lieutenant Marty Coyne, right? So we get 3 jobs in a night tour.
Wow.
So the first job we get, these are just small all hands fires, nothing major. The first job we get, we pull out a bald lady. She had hair on her head, but as we're moving her out, her hair came off because she had a wig. So we always say we rescued a bald lady. Then a little while later, we get another job, and we go in there, and there's a woman, and it's a 2-headed lady. She's got a big growth on her neck that looked like a head. So that's the 2-headed lady. And then the third job, there was a woman that was strapped in a bed. I guess she was sort of violent.
Really?
So we called it a fucked up lady. So we had a bald lady, a 2-headed lady, and a fucked up lady. We had
it sounds like
nothing.
You fought a fire at Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Fucking amazing, man. That's what the ghetto was so fucking. All that excitement captured me working in that ghetto, you know?
Yeah, every night was like different. It was like a different tour. Who's that?
Yes, that's me and Pete Luck Savage.
Nice.
Pete was a great guy, man. He was a Green Beret.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
Green Beret, great guy. He lived in Queens. Came. I don't know where he worked before, but he came to 30 Truck. Real great guy. And that job was that was a top floor job, and I don't remember what that one was, but we had fun because you could see the smile on our faces. Yeah. We did a good job as usual. Usually
when you come out of a fire, guys are smiling if the job went well and nobody got hurt or whatever, and everything went, as according to plan as it can be, because not every job goes perfect. Guys can always second guess. I could have went here. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. But back in the day, you guys, if you thought that you made a mistake in a fire, you could probably redeem yourself. And you've heard this before. at the next fire, which would probably be pretty soon. But then comes my time, and some time after, sometimes you would think you'd screw up at a job and you wouldn't catch another first due job for weeks, maybe months. And it would just turn in your head, man, right?
Yes. And remember, let me tell you something. Certain things in a fire service, if it happens to you, it could be years and years and years later, and it sort of almost happens again, that whatever comes back to you like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you've been thinking about it for so long.
Yeah, we did. That's true. You could redeem yourself back then, years ago, and you know, you always wanted to do good for the guys. We always, as the young guys, we looked up to like the senior guys in the truck and the engine. We wanted to make them proud of us.
Yeah.
And they would tell you when they were proud, but then they would tell you when they were mad. You know?
Yeah.
And you listen to them. So.
Yeah, that was like catching work. I always wanted to, not because I love fighting fires and I wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing by the guys, and, you know, fighting a fire for the guys, and that they would know that I'm doing a good job, because I never wanted to let you guys down, you know? So I always tried my best to do that. It was about fire and saving the building and people and all that stuff, life and property, but fighting the fire for the brothers, for the guys, you know, going to battle with you guys and wanting to do well for you guys was top of my list, man. That was, you know, not wanting to let you guys down.
Well, let me tell you something. You did do that, because every time that you and I worked and I looked over and seen you as the MPO, or even on the back step, I knew that if you were driving, the engine was going to get water somehow.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And if you're on the back step, that line was going to go in.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
That's what that was my mental thing when I looked around the firehouse, started tours.
One of my early jobs in 59, when, you know, I first got there, it was a vacant top floor. And, you know, Victorio and Scott Seaver was at the job. And I talked about this job. They were taking cinder block walls down, and the fire just kicked my ass. And I thought it was over, just getting my ass kicked. And then I hear the saws going, then boom, you guys open up the roof, and it just was like the hand of God. And who was standing there was you. You opened up the roof, you got that. And I was like, it just was amazing. Like, and that was like my first real memory fire that you were at. And you just with the axe and just, you know, snot and the whole, I was like, look at this. This is the greatest thing ever.
Wasn't it great, Kenny?
Oh, it was so great. Fighting fire is so great. And then, you know, when seeing all that stuff and being involved.
You know, nobody knows what we just discussed right now except another fireman.
Yeah. It's
you
true.
Know, civilians watch this thing maybe and they say, what the fuck are those guys? They like going to fires, and they want to get dirty, but they don't understand.
They don't understand it. Like, listen, I don't wish anybody's life to be upturned. I don't want to see anybody hurt or their property, you know, destroyed, because it really does. Fire really destroy, even a small fire. Just the water damage and smoke damage can really fuck up somebody's life for a long time.
Yes.
But if it happens to be a fire in your area, I want to be at it. You know, that's everybody's mentality, I think.
That's exactly right. 10-4.
Yeah. So I wanted to get your opinion on how you thought like firematics has changed, like as far as like the fire behaves and materials and stuff from your time to when you were retired, because things have even changed up to now, like with lithium ion batteries and stuff.
Yes. Well, those batteries came about after I retired, so I didn't really fought that many fires with those batteries. But the thing that really changed our tactics a little bit was the energy efficient windows, because they made a room or an apartment airproof or airtight.
Airtight, yeah.
And you know, you get fires that would burn down to nothing, and that you'd respond there and you'd find smoke and heat, but no fire. And the one job I had with Healy, we went in and we couldn't find this fire in a project on Fifth Avenue. I think it was 2330 Fifth Avenue. Hot as a mother. Yeah. So finally, you know, we're taking windows and everything, and Healy says, oh, here it is. It was a chair and a mattress. And both of them were burned just to springs. So the fire burned the mattress to bits, took every bit of oxygen out of the room. And when we opened up, there was nothing there but heat and smoke. Wow. Energy windows.
Yeah.
They're tough, and they're tough to break.
Yeah.
You know, You hit him with a Halligan, and the Halligan bounces off sometimes. But we really didn't. The tactics changed when somebody came up with the word flow path.
Flow path.
Now, yes, flow path was a phenomenon that we actually wanted to happen years ago, which is pop the apartment door, let the smoke out, let it go up the stairs. The roof man's got the bulkhead, and out it goes.
Boom.
So we actually wanted that. That's the scenario that you wanted. Nowadays, they don't want that. They want the door closed. They don't want the bulkhead taken. And I think it's a mistake. They got into this thing with energy, with wind-driven fires, which we had wind-driven fires years ago. And, you know, if you open the door and fucking shit came out to you in the hallway, the officer closed the door. And somehow we put the fire out. Either just stick the nozzle in, or it burned itself out, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, now they're coming up with this new technology with curtains and a floor below nozzle, whatever. And is it good? I don't know, maybe, but it's they went too far with that wind-driven fire. Don't do it for a tenement or a brownstone. No. You know, you want to do it if the fire's on the 50th floor in a high-rise. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. But please, I don't want to hear can I take the bulkhead and the fire's under control? Yeah.
No, that bulkhead should be taken just fucking immediately.
Absolutely.
I don't know where that changed. I remember it changed, and I don't know. We went to a job, and it was a high rise, and every floor was just fucking banked down. And was like, what? Why is it so? This is one apartment fire. It shouldn't be, you know, that bad every floor, because they didn't take the bulkhead, and it was just at the start of that. It was just shitty. I don't know. I don't know if they changed that. You've been retired what, 5 years? I'm retired 3 years. I don't know if things changed a little bit, but is that Snyder?
They're still doing the same thing, because, you know, once something like that gets approved and printed, it's hard to reverse it. But listen, fire department is common sense. You know, it's using your brains. It's common sense. Having an officer that knows what they're doing was always a big plus on the fire ground. Yeah, it cut down on injuries, and it helped the fire go out faster. Yep. You know, no matter what you say, curtains, thermal imaging cameras, drones, whatever, it comes down to an experienced fire officer and a good nozzle man. That's what puts the fire out.
An aggressive interior attack.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fires don't go out with hooks. We tried. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So you had mentioned the floor below nozzle. So I got a quick funny story about that. You know, at a high-rise fire, everything's at 1077 now. Like back in the day, you know, if it was really, really high floor, they'd call it 1077. But if it was in a high-rise on the third floor, it would just still be a regular 1075. That changed somewhere early on in my career. But I remember it. But anyway, they started assigning a fucking million people, and one of the assignments for an engine at a high-rise fire was the floor below nozzle. And, you know, it looks like a big giant hook, you know, and you put it out, and so the fire was on the first floor in the Bronx, and we got assigned 59 engine got assigned the high-rise nozzle. It was ridiculous. I walked up with the high-rise nozzle, and I went up to the chief at the command post. I go, "Chief, you want me to go to the floor above and turn it upside down?" He was like, "Get the fuck out of here. Just get away with that. Just go back to Harlem." I don't know who the guy was, but he didn't want to hear it.
Yeah, well, you know what it is, Kenny? That's another thing, too. You watch a YouTube video now, and the 1077, you got an apartment fire and a project up by us, right? A housing project. 2 and 2 takes care of everything. Yeah. And you come down, there's 200 guys in a lobby. It's fucking ridiculous.
We have unlimited resources, you know.
In Midtown, 3rd Division, 1st Division, you get one of those high rises. Yeah, I can understand that, where the OV captures the elevator. And they do all of that stuff, and they bring their equipment and this and that, and the different SAE and all of that other shit. Yeah. But not for a 14-story city project. You know?
No. So, I'm going to pop up some pictures. I want you to mention the pictures here. I'm going to show a friend of yours.
Oh, Michael Byrne, buckethead.
Look at that. Now he's got If everybody could see this, his inner lip is tattooed with FDNY on it.
Yeah.
That's some insane stuff.
We called him Buckethead. He had a huge fucking head. And great guy. He rode motorcycles. He was originally from 35 engine, then he transferred to 30 truck.
Yeah.
Real bull of a guy. He didn't give a fuck about nothing.
Yeah.
Great fireman. But he was a good wild man.
Yeah. He was getting out when I was getting to 59, so I didn't really get to work with him. But
Yeah.
I met him a couple times.
Oh,
yeah.
he was so funny to work with. It was just when you worked with him, you knew you were going to laugh the whole tour.
Yeah, you had to definitely cast the characters there, for a long time. Let's see, what do we got here? I'm going to show you a newer picture. This is one of my favorites, if not my favorite picture. I love this picture.
Yeah, where do I got that? I got that somewhere here.
Is it behind your head? I don't know.
You Hanlon, Victorio, and
Foley, Bo.
Foley.
Yeah. I just feel like
a great picture.
That just reminds me of an old school, like back in the 30s, something, in Harlem, brownstone fireman picture right there. I love that picture. Yeah. I'm so glad I was in that picture and sitting on that stoop with you guys.
Yeah,
and the experience, even for young guys.
And we had a good rapport with our neighbors. That's why we could sit on the stoops across the street. We could yell at the girls when they came down the block, or we knew them. Hey, because they loved us and we loved them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I always use your people like, oh, did you go to college? I go, yeah, I went to UCLA, and they're like, yeah. I go, yeah, University of corner of Lenox Avenue, and they're like, oh, just get out of here. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, let's see. What do we got? What else? We might have one or two left here. Here's one. There you go. Glory
that's
days.
Me and Anthony Shallow. I think it's right the multi-unit drill. Operating the area. Anthony is a great guy. He was in 3 truck as a fireman. Then he went to 84 engine. Then he came to us in 30, and he was same thing. Phenomenal guy. Very level-headed. For a Brooklyn Italian, he was very level-headed. I figured him to be like a wild man when I first met him, like Billy Walsh was. Yeah. Although Billy Walsh was Irish, but Anthony, he always did the right thing, in other words, and he always said the right thing, and he was a great fireman and always in position, and another guy I enjoyed working with. Nice. Now we got one. This looks like after retirement at probably September 11th breakfast. Yeah. That was, let's see, going from the left, that would be clockwise. It's Kudelka, right? We called him Cuckoo. Then Jimmy Ryan. Okay. And I can't see who that is. I don't know. And then, I wish I could make it bigger, and then on the other side was the guy sitting down with the white hat on, was Lieutenant Mickich, the guy I told you when I had my first roast. Yep. That's him. And then me, and then Matty Baker, who's in the engine, and Jungle Jim Feaster. Jungle Jim. Why call him Jungle Jim? Just another wild man that we didn't think that he was going to make 40 years. Really? Yeah. He was just crazy. Just a crazy fucking. I don't know how they were legitimately crazy. That's funny. Just what he did, but another excellent fireman. Yeah. Always in position. Jungle Jim in the Harlem Zoo. Jungle Jim. Okay, that one. That's a good picture. John Murray, he just passed away. I'm going left to right. Then it's K9. Then it's the original Wolfman, Bobby Brown. In the middle? In the middle with the dog. That's Jack. And then me. And then Lieutenant Jerry Ritzinger. He was covering in a truck that day. And then next to him, Tommy Longo. Nice. That was the whole 5-man, and an officer truck. The original Wolfman. He's the original Wolfman, Bobby Brown, Vietnam veteran. Wow. Always had long hair and a little bit of a beard. Okay. So I got a question for you. What is a fireman's greatest tool? Let's see. How am I going to answer this? His greatest tool? All right. You sure it's not a well-rested fireman? Oh, an ever-alert fireman. Ever alert. That's me. You'd be up at the drop of a dime. You'd hear everything. Yeah, we're not sleeping. We're resting. Right. A well-rested fireman is a good fireman. Absolutely.
let's see. We're starting to get a little close to the ending here, but you travel around a lot and see a lot of different departments, right? You've been probably all over the country. You know, a lot of people know you. You've done a lot of stuff. What are some of the impressive fire departments or that you really like that's a really great department? You know, I know there's a lot of great departments out there. So
Yeah.
what are some of the departments that impress you? Or
Well, Kenny, let me tell you something. When you know, I'm well known, not because I'm that great of a guy or whatever, but when you've been around long enough, then people know you. You know what I'm saying? And I did go to a lot of fire departments: Baltimore, D.C., Miami, Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts, San Francisco, and all the ones in Jersey. You know, Newark, Jersey City.
Yeah.
They all have their good points and their bad points. It's, you know, we are FDNY trained.
Yes.
We do it our way. There's a certain way to do it our way.
All way.
That doesn't work with other fire departments, but their way works for them. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what I always did when I went to a different fire department. I would go down and just check, how do you guys do this? Like Baltimore and DC, the first do engine and truck take the front, the second do engine and front take the back. And they do that two-pronged attack. And whoever gets water first puts the fire out.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
We never do that, but it works great for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a saying that the circus is the same, but the clowns change. Didn't you say that?
Same circus, different clowns. Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly how that describes every fire department in the United States.
Yeah.
Both paid and volunteer. And I've seen some great volunteer fire departments too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
You know?
Yeah. All with the same goal of putting out the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's different ways of doing it, but the fire goes out.
I was going to say, like, I'm thinking about, you know, like one of my short videos, like different departments, different tactics, because you can get out there and now with social media, everything's on video, fires and people are critiquing, oh, why is it taking them? So why don't they have water yet? Or why is this guy putting a ladder up this way? Or why this, that, the other thing? And I refuse to critique other departments or other firehouses or the way they're attacking, you know, because that's not my department. That just might be the way they do things and that works for them. However it is, you know, I don't even want to critique fires that I wasn't even at, you know, even in our own department. If I see a fire and guys are like, oh, why are they doing this, that? I wasn't there. I can't say why they were doing it. I can't see what's out of frame, or maybe there's fire in there. I don't know. So people got to like remember that, you know, there's different departments, different tactics, and what works for them is the reason why they do it.
Yes, and I agree 100% with you, because armchair quarterbacking of other fire departments is no good.
No good. Because
number one, you weren't there. Number two, you're not a member of that fire department. And number three, the guys that you're talking about are going to be fucking well pissed off at you. You know?
Absolutely.
So how do you do that? But, you know, there's a lot of guys, sometimes it's jealousy. You know, I think that they want to be on a big city fire department, or they couldn't make it, or they're on a small volunteer, and, you know, they're just jealous, or I don't know what it is. But I agree 100% with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, especially guys, when they talk about New York shit, that gets my fucking hairs in the back of my neck up.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's just like, I try to ignore it, but, you know, I sometimes read the comments. I go, you know what? Let me just not bother. I can't do that. You know?
Yes, it's not worth it.
No, not at all. Not at all. So is there, let me see, is there anything else that you want to, I mean, you were on the job during 9/11. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into how you felt or.
Yeah, you know, Kenny, to tell you the truth, I sort of put that on the shelf. I don't really like talking about it.
Okay. No worries. No worries at all.
It was a bad time in our job. And it's just the guys that went through it, there's a lot of emotions involved. And, you know, and especially houses that lost everybody.
Yeah.
How can you fathom that?
How do you go into work the next day? Like, I don't know how these guys did it, you know?
Yeah, it's just, they were amazing guys. And, but anyway.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
All right. So what was, so we could skip that. That's fine. What was your favorite rig? You're a big buff rig guy. What was your favorite rig to have to drive? That you had?
When I was in the engine, it was the Mac.
The Mac.
There's a picture of me. It's like a dull picture of me standing in front of the rig.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me find it. I think is that it?
No, that's ladder 30. This was
All right.
like a very grainy.
There we go.
That's MP 7913. That's the register number of that rig.
You remember the register? I can't believe how much you remember. That's so funny.
Because it's fucking useless information. That's why. I don't know how to turn the cell phone on, but I can tell you MP 7913.
Well, you did it all right. This is working out okay. So,
yeah.
Now
that Mac rig with Kenny, it was fast.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing but a motor and a pump.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. And it started every time. It was fast. One time when I was in the engine, we were third due on up by 37 engine.
Mm-hmm.
Auto body shop on a day tour.
Mm-hmm.
Third due engine, they only used 2 lines. It was a couple of cars burning inside.
Yeah.
So our pumper was standing idle. We were just standing around. Now we go back to quarters. And Matty Baker's driving. So he puts it in gear and the rig takes off and brrr, it dies. Now those rigs, very rarely does a diesel die.
Yeah.
So he starts it up again. We go another like maybe 20, 30 feet. Brrr. So we said, what the fuck? We get out. The oil plug came out from the crankcase and we followed the trail of oil all the way back to the job.
Really?
So we had to call the shops. They came out. They filled it with oil. The mechanic took it for a ride. Where they said, "Hey, it's good."
Huh?
They were tough rigs, the Max.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the best truck was, I like the Seagrave with the phone booth. Because that was another great rig too. See that picture?
Yeah. That
was a 4th of July when the 4th of Julys were really fucking rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
And they sent us to a report of a fire on 5th Avenue and 139th Street, and it turned out to be fireworks smoke. So then another box came in close. So I went to make a K-turn, and I backed into a glass bus stop. And the whole thing just like exploded because it's that fucking safety glass.
Yeah, yeah.
And Lieutenant O'Brien said, "What the fuck was that?" I said, I hit the bus stop. He goes, I forget it. Go to the box. Those 4th of Julys were the best, man.
Yeah. You wanted to work every 4th of July.
I worked every 4th of July.
Yeah.
If I wasn't working, I'd ask somebody if they wanted off, and I'd work every 4th of July. It was just wild. Yeah.
So I think you're the one that introduced those. They got the old audios of 4th of July sending like freaking 2-something engine up to the North Bronx, and they're like, "Where are we supposed to go?" They go, "Just stop at the first fire you see and fight that fire."
From like 7 o'clock at night until maybe 11 or 12, it was pure fucking mayhem. And every borough was like that, especially Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to bring 3 scanners in. I had the Bronx, Manhattan, and Brooklyn. And I was listening to all of them, man. Everybody was going fucking haywire.
Oh man, 4th of July. What I would have given to work a 4th of July instead of lighting fireworks like a stupid kid, you know?
Well, the kids, their idea was light it like the Roman candles into a vacant.
Yeah, yeah.
Not straight up. They would aim for a vacant building. So we didn't give a fuck. It was a fire.
Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you? You had said once you knew you were going to a fire when you came into work and people were putting their furniture onto the side of the street, right? Like, tell me something like that. Like, what do you?
Well, on our block especially, it was heavily crack. The drug was crack.
Yeah.
They were using heroin too, but it was crack.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen was, I don't know if it was drug dealers or a group of drug dealers would come in and pick out a building, and they would tell the people, "We're taking over this first floor apartment. Everybody else get out, or we're going to burn you out."
Wow.
And they would take over an apartment in a tenement.
Yeah.
And do the drugs out of there until they got caught. Mm-hmm. And so the people were rightly scared.
Yeah, for sure.
They wanted to move out, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, across the street from our firehouse was a brownstone that was vacant. One day, this was years ago, I was in the...
Oh, you went black. We lost your signal, Keith. Nick.
Everybody out? So we said, Nick, maybe somebody's going to move in there, right?
Yeah.
So we find out that it's owned by a fire marshal. A fire marshal bought the building.
Yeah.
But drug dealers put up the cement wall on, you know how a brownstone is with the basement next to the stoop?
Mm-hmm.
They put the cinder block wall up and they cut a small hole in it, like a mail slot, and people would line up and they would give their money in and they would get their drugs out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just amazing. And then, sometimes, very rarely, but every once in a while, we'd get a job in 2 brownstones. Now, that's very rare because they all got dividing walls.
Yeah.
But the drug dealers would go to the top floor and smash a hole between the bearing wall. So if they were dealing in this one and the cops came, they could go up and escape out of the top.
Oh, man.
So if there was a job, the fire would extend through that hole. And that's when you knew you had 2 brownstones going. That was a drug den.
Wow. Crazy stuff back in the day.
Oh, just let me tell you something. And the people, they were like zombies. They were walking around with like the men had Popeye arms from shooting up heroin and getting infected.
Oh, man.
And the women, one time me and Bobby Brown, 2:00 in the morning, knock on the door, and a woman wanted to perform oral sex on us for $0.25 each. $0.25.
$0.25.
Yeah.
So she could get some crack.
So, but
get out of here. Yeah.
It was just crazy. Then, one more story. We had a guy, he was a fireman in 45 truck. He was a scout.
Mm-hmm.
And him and a girl would go to they picked out our firehouse one night. They set a vacant building on fire on 137th Street between Lenox and 5th.
Yeah.
So we go there and we put the fire up, but we must have returned a little bit too early because we backed the rigs in, and me and I think it was Pete Luxavage was down at the house wash. The guys are in the back, and a woman comes out with no shoes on, a black woman, no shoes on, with a bag. And we said, who the fuck, what are you doing here? We look in the bag, there's wallets, car keys, everything. He set the fire.
Really?
Gave her the 1620 key to get in to go rob the lockers. But we got back too soon. So we called the cops, and finally she traced it to him, and then he got fired.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know about that. I'd never heard that one. Or you might have told me about that, but that's crazy.
Yeah,
Man.
that's what, like Kenny, I said, all that excitement sort of captured me up there. It was, it was a different world.
Yeah, for sure.
For North Bergen, it was a different world.
So listen, we're getting ready to end it. What do you think? Maybe one day we do this again? Couple weeks, couple months?
Well, if you get good feedback from me, and if you want to, I would love to come back again.
Awesome. That's great to hear. You got any parting words? Any parting advice for new firemen? Any words of wisdom?
Okay, yes, I do. First of all, I want to come. Maddie, you can't curse on this thing. You're on the air.
Would he take a break from in between bites?
Yes, he's come up for air. It's like a whale. You got to come up and go down again. But a nice looking whale, a very attractive whale. Can I comment on that thing with the 3 Probies getting hit with water?
Absolutely, you can comment on whatever you want. Yeah, of course.
A while ago, somebody came up with the term hazing. And they applied it to what we do to Probies. Now, they are completely wrong. Hazing is done in college when they make you drink 20 shots of fucking tequila and eat a fucking live chicken. That's fucking hazing. What we do is welcome the Proby to the firehouse and break them in. We're setting them on a path that they're going to have a good career. And that path means mind yourself, keep your mouth shut, your ears open, do whatever you're told with a smile. You're going to get your balls broke, but it's for a reason, to make a thick skin. And if you can have a thick skin in a firehouse, you can have a thick skin in the field. And how many Probies did we break in, and me and you and everything? And every one of them, go back to the firehouse now, every one of them said, you know what? I enjoyed my time being a Proby. And they got their balls broke constantly. But after a while, you're not a Proby anymore. You start making your way up that ladder. And that's what happens in a fire department. You know, if you treat a Proby if you give them rights when they first come into the firehouse, they're going to turn into a hairbag. Now, some people might not agree with that, and I don't give a fuck. But if anybody's out there, don't send any bad comments to Kenny, because I will hunt you down. Because Kenny's my man, and we both love the New York City Fire Department.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Yes,
Great
but
stuff.
anyway, to the Probies, get into the job, do as much as you can, work as much as you can, step up for everything, be the last one to sit down, the first one to get up, and enjoy all of that fucking time, because it goes so fast, and it's an experience that not too many people can say they have, working in a firehouse, and especially in a New York City firehouse.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
all I got.
Great words. Great words. I'm truly honored and humbled to have worked under your tutelage for so long and learn all this stuff from you and all your experience. So thanks so much, Keith, Nick, for sitting in with me. I really appreciate
Kenny,
it.
I always enjoyed working with you. And like I said, I looked at the crew, and you were one of the top guys when whatever position you were in, I knew that was covered. And that means something.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I appreciate that.
So
all right. So listen, don't hang up yet. I'm gonna do my end it. I'm gonna stop recording, but don't hang up. We'll talk for 2-3 more minutes, and then I'll let you go. All right.
Okay. Don't do nothing.
Don't do nothing yet. Okay. You're not tech savvy guy. I know, so
I'm not touching anything.
Don't touch anything. All right. Listen, that was Keith. Great man. He's just the wisdom that he has had and the training that he's given guys over the years is second to none. And anybody that worked under him over the years will know and say that he's the first guy. Thank you for doing all the drilling that you do with the guys and taking guys out and going above and beyond, because your name is on the line. The Harlem Zoo is on the line. The FDNY's name is on the line if you don't treat those guys right. So I really appreciate it. I learned so much from you, and catching fires with you was awesome. You're a true legend of the job. So thanks so much, Keith. I really appreciate it.
Well, Kenny, you're very welcome, and I appreciate those kind words. And you know what? It's like a football team. I wasn't the only one there. We all work together as a firehouse and as two combined units, and we always did a great job. Our firehouse has a good reputation nationwide.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And with those words, remember, it must be true. You heard it at the kitchen table. Take care.
Correct.